Hello, this is Spidey1958 and welcome to my Pathfinder Kingmaker core classes, tips and options. This episode we're going to do the Magus or Magus. I think it's actually Magus, but I could be wrong. Everyone knows that I'm very bad at pronouncing words. Okay. The Magus is basically an intelligence-based arcane caster who also fights with weapons. So they spend much of their time traveling the world, learning whatever martial or arcane secrets they can find. They may spend several months learning a new sword fighting style from a master warrior while simultaneously moonlighting in the local library, pouring through tomes of ancient lore. Most who take this path dabble in all sorts of lore, picking up everything that might aid them in their search for perfection. So let's go ahead and start with the basic mages, or magi. They're magi, so they should be magus if they're magi, I believe. They basically get cantrips, 0-level spells, which are a subset of the standard wizard spell list. I think almost all their spells are a subset of wizard. They're proficient with all simple martial weapons. They're also proficient with light armor. They can cast magus spells while wearing light armor without incurring the normal arcane spell failure chance. Like any other spellcaster, a magus wearing medium armor, heavy armor, or a shield incurs a chance of arcane spell failure. A multi-class magus still incurs the normal arcane spell failure chance for arcane spells received from other classes. So you can't just put a couple levels in magus so you can wear armor and cast spells as a wizard. Your wizard spells would still be susceptible to the arcane spell failure. So your first level abilities, you get Arcane Pool. At first level, you gain a reservoir of mystical arcane energy that you can draw up to fuel your powers and enhance your weapon. This Arcane Pool has a number of points equal to half your mage's level plus intelligence modifier. The pool refreshes once per day when the magus prepares their spells. At first level, a magus can expend 1 point from their arcane pool as a swift action to grant any weapon they're holding a +1 enhancement bonus for 1 minute. For every 4 levels beyond first, the weapon gains another +1 enhancement bonus to a maximum of +5 at 17th level. These bonuses can be added to the weapon, stacking with existing weapon enhancements to a maximum of +5. Multiple uses of this ability do not stack with themselves. At 5th level, these bonuses can be used to add any of the following weapon properties: Flaming, Flaming Burst, Frost, Icy Burst, Keen, Shock, Shocking Burst, or Speed. Adding these properties consumes an amount of bonus equal... Let me go ahead and right-click on that so I don't do that again. Adding these properties consumes an amount of bonus equal to the property's base price modifier. The properties are added to any weapon the weapon already has, but duplicates do not stack. If the weapon is not magical, at least a +1 enhancement bonus must be added before any other properties can be added. These bonuses and properties are decided when the arcane pool point is spent and cannot be changed until the next time the magus uses this ability. The bonuses do not function if the weapon is wielded by anyone other than the magus. The magus can only enhance one weapon in that way at one time. If they use this ability again, their first use immediately ends. The other thing they get is spell combat. At first level, a magus learns to cast spells and wield his weapons at the same time. This functions much like two-weapon fighting, but the offhand is a spell that is being cast. To use this ability, the magus must have one hand free while wielding a light or one-handed melee weapon in the other hand. As a full round action, he can make all of his attacks with his melee weapon at -2 penalty and can also cast any spell from the magus spell list with a casting time of 1 standard action, and the attack roll made as part of the spell also takes this penalty. So basically, you can hit with your weapon and throw a spell at a -2 to hit, which is actually a good ability, but it gets better. At second level, you get Spell Strike. At second level, whenever a Magus casts a spell with a range of touch from the Magus spell list, he can deliver the spell through any weapon he is wielding as part of a melee attack. Instead of the free melee touch attack normally allowed to deliver a spell, a Magus can make one free melee attack with his weapon at his highest base attack bonus as part of casting the spell. If successful, this melee attack deals its normal damage as well as the effects of the spell. If the Magus makes this attack in concert with spell combat, this melee attack takes all the penalties incurred by spell combat melee attacks. This attack uses the weapon's critical range and is modified by the keen weapon ability or similar effects. But the spell effects only deal 2 times on a successful critical, while the weapon damage uses its own critical modifier. So you can crit with the spell if you crit with the weapon, but the spell damage is only doubled even if you're using a weapon that's 3 or 4 times critical damage. So that's a good to know. Third level, you get your Magus Arcana. As you gain a level, Magus learns arcane secrets tailored to a specific way of blending martial puissance and magical skill. Starting at third level, a Magus gains 1 Magus Arcana. He gains an additional Magus Arcana for every 3 levels of Magus obtained after third level. Unless specially noted in the Magus Arcana's description, a Magus cannot select a particular Magus Arcana more than once. Unfortunately, I don't know what the Magus Arcanas are. They're not in any of the books I have, and I haven't played a Magus enough to actually know them. So, but you gain basically special abilities. Okay, at 4th level, you basically get Spell Recall. At 4th level, the Magus learns to use his Arcane Pool to recall spells he's already cast. With a swift action, he can recall any single Magus spell that he has already prepared and cast that day by expending a number of points from his Arcane Pool equal to the spell's level. The spell is prepared again just as if it had not been cast. Then at 5th level, basically you get your second +2, or you go from +1 to +2. You get your bonus Magus feat at 5th level, and every 6 levels thereafter, a Magus gains a bonus feat in addition to those gained from normal advancement. These bonus feats must be selected from those listed as combat or magic feats. He must meet the prerequisites for these feats as normal. So, you could learn like weapon focus or, spell mastery or stuff like that. At 6th level, you basically get another Magus Arcana. At 7th level, you get to wear medium armor and cast your spells without incurring the normal arcane spell failure. So basically you go to medium armor. At 8th level, you get improved spell combat. The Magus's ability to cast spells and make melee attacks improves when using the spell combat ability. A Magus receives a +2 circumstance bonus on concentration checks. And I should explain, because I've just had explained to a developer that throwing spells in combat is actually better than I thought. Every caster in combat automatically tries to make a defensive casting roll, which means if you roll higher than, I can't remember, it's 10 or 15 plus the level of the spell. But if you make that roll, you don't generate an attack of opportunity. If you fail that roll, then they get an attack of opportunity, but the spell will still go off unless they hit you. And then if they hit you, you get a concentration roll for higher than the amount of damage they did to you to still get the spell off. But you can also, that assumes that you can see the creature. You cannot basically you don't defensive cast against creatures you can't see. You can also get hit by something else during casting. This will also provoke concentration checks. It will make you lose the spell if the spell is failed. This may happen because the game is RTWP and actions happen simultaneously. So basically what that means in simple terms is that since it takes you a while to throw a spell, someone could shoot you during that spell casting time, just like you could shoot a caster during that spell casting time. You could do that in normal. The paper version is you just ready an action and shoot as soon as the caster casts, which very seldom got done, but in this case it always can happen. So, and then 9th level, you get go up to your +3 and you get another Magus Arcana. At 10th level you get fighter training. What that means is you count as half your level for feats that require a fighter level of X. So you could get weapon specialization once you had enough levels, which would be half of, whatever. Which I think is 4th level, so you'd have to be 8th level. So you could get that at this level. 11th, you get your improved spell recall. Your ability to recall spells using your Arcane Pool becomes more efficient. When you recall a spell with spell recall, you expend the number of points from your Arcana Pool equal to half the spell's level, minimum of 1. So you can basically get twice as many spells back using your Arcane Pool. And you get another bonus Magus feat, which again would be a combat or magical feat. 12th level, you get another Magus Arcana. 13th level, you now can do +4 using your pool. And you can wear heavy armor and throw spells. Mind you, you never get to use a shield because you have to have one hand free to throw spells. So you have to use one-handed or light weapons. At 14th, Greater Spell Combat. You gain the ability to seamlessly cast spells and make melee attacks whenever you use spell combat ability. Your concentration check bonus from improved spell combat increases to +4. So you'd be adding even more to doing that seamlessly. 15th, you get another Magus Arcana feat. 16th, you get Counterstrike. Whenever an enemy within reach of the Magus successfully casts the spell defensively, the enemy provokes an attack of opportunity from the Magus after the spell is complete. So even though they cast defensively, which they always do automatically, you would still get an attack of opportunity, but you would get it after the spell had actually gone off. So you don't get a chance to interrupt the spell. 17th, you get your final +5 max for your skills. You get bonus Magus feat again, which is your last one. At 18th level, you get another Magus Arcana. At 19th level, you get Greater Spell Access. You gain access to an expanded spell list. You can learn and place 6 spells from the Wizard spell list into your spellbook as Magus spells of that Wizard level, one of each level from 1st to 6th. And last but not least, your True Magus. At 20th level, the Magus becomes a Master of Spells in Combat. Whenever he uses his spell combat ability, he does not need to make a concentration check to cast defensively. Whenever the Magus uses a spell combat, he can choose to either increase the DC to resist his spells by 2, grant himself a +2 bonus on any checks made to overcome spell resistance, or grant himself a +2 bonus on all attack rolls. So they become uber. I like the 20th abilities because the only way to get those, since you can only go to 20th, is not to dip into 27 different classes. So a pure single class is always going to be more powerful at 20th level than most of the dips, in theory. There are always exceptions. So let's move on to the next variation, which is the Eldritch Scion. Okay. There basically, the normal Magus is intelligence based. And have spell books and stuff like that. The Eldritch Scion is basically a sorcerer version of mages. They have a source somewhere in their heritage, grant spells, and they basically get a bloodline just like a sorcerer does. They get cantrips, and they get the same light armor, weapons. And they're still an arcane caster. So they get the same spell combat, though they get their progression a little different. They get Eldritch, instead of Arcane Pool, they get the Eldritch Pool, which is basically it's the same as the one for the standard mages, except it uses charisma instead of intelligence. Okay, at second level you get your spell strike like before. Third, you get your mages. Pretty much most of the stuff looks the same. The big thing is, because you get the bloodline, you don't get the spell abilities in that. So that's the only real big difference between the mages and the eldritch, is the charisma for casting, and you don't get the spell feats. So you don't get those bonuses. You do get bonus feats. And you do get the arcane weapons. Well, it looks like you also don't get you get spell combat. Though you get stuff improved spell combat, which is normally 8th, you get it 14th, at least on the chart, which could be wrong. Remember, this is beta. You get greater spell combat down here, and you get greater spell access down here. So, anything else different? So you do get these abilities, you just get them later. So the next is the Sword Saint. The Sword Saint spends his life focusing his training and meditation into a rapturous perfection of the use of a single weapon, which is usually not always a sword, channeling his arcane might through it in a dazzling and deadly dance beyond the abilities of even the greatest of mundane warriors. So you get cantrips. A Sword Saint is proficient in simple weapons and in a single martial or exotic melee weapon. So you only get one weapon that basically you're proficient in outside of simple weapons. You also don't get the bonus on armor or any of that. And you also gain weapon focus with your chosen weapon as a bonus feat. You get your Arcane Pool, like before. You get your spell combat. This is more like the standard mage's progression. But you get these new defense stuff. Canny defense when wearing light or no armor. Wielding his chosen weapon and not using a shield, the Sword Saint adds 1 point of intelligence bonus, if any, per mage's level, class level, as a dodge bonus to their armor class. If a Sword Saint is caught flat-footed or otherwise denied their dex bonus, they also lose this bonus. So you add your intelligence plus, so here you'd add +1 for your intelligence bonus until you reach your intelligence bonus. So say you have a 3 or a 4, you wouldn't gain any more after that, but you would get that on top of your dex. At 11th, you'd get superior reflexes. You make a number of attacks of opportunity in a round equal to your intelligence modifier, minimum 1. This effect stacks with combat reflex feat. So you get to make more attacks of opportunity. 19th level, your initiative roll is automatically a natural 20. Wow, that's a neat thing. Then you get some different things on your spell strike. So your second level spell strike's the same. But then in 4th level you have Perfect Strike. When you hit with your chosen weapon, you can spend 1 point from your Arcane Pool in order to maximize the weapon's damage. You don't roll for damage, the weapon deals max damage. This effect only affects weapons base damage, not additional damage from sneak attack, magical weapon properties, spell strike, or critical hits. If the Sword Saint confirms a critical hit, he can instead spend 2 points from his Arcane Pool to increase his weapon's critical multiplier by 2. Or by 1, sorry. So they basically can use their Arcane Pool to max damage and to add a crit modifier. 7th level, they count the normal magus gets half their level. They get their level -3. So they get fighter feats earlier. So basically at 7th level they get fighter -3 so they can add weapon specialization. At 9th level they get critical perfection. Add their intelligence bonus on critical hit confirmation rolls with their favorite weapon. In addition, Sword Saint may use his magus levels in place of his base attack bonus to qualify for any feat for which it is a prerequisite. At 13th, you get Lethal Focus. When a Sword Saint is attacking a flat-footed opponent, he adds his intelligence modifier on damage with his chosen weapon. Minimum 0. At 16th level, Counterstrike. Whenever an enemy within reach of the magus successfully casts a spell defensively, this is the similar feat that we saw before. And then their 20th level special feat is Weapon Mastery. Any Sword Saint attacks makes his chosen weapon automatically confirm all critical hits and their damage multiplier is increased by 1. Times 2 becoming times 3, for example. So they get their Magus Arcana. They get 1 less, but they get automatically Lightning Draw at 7th level. Sword Saint applies his intelligence modifier as well as dexterity modifier on initiative rolls. And they get the martial, and then they get the same bonus magus feats. So, last but not least, we have the Eldritch Archer, which is basically a magical archer. They throw spells and shoot bows at the same time. So they have the standard cantrips. They have the standard proficiencies. They can wear armor, all martial, and simple weapons. They get our normal Arcana pool. But they get ranged spell combat instead of the normal spell combat. They use a ranged weapon for spell combat. They don't need a free hand for ranged spell combat. They cannot accept an attack penalty to gain a bonus on concentration checks to cast a spell defensively. I'm not sure what that means. Ranged Spell Strike. At 2nd level, whenever an Eldritch Archer casts a spell that calls for a ranged attack, they can deliver the spell through a ranged weapon they yield as part of a ranged attack. Instead of the free ranged attack normally allowed to deliver the spell, an Eldritch Archer can make 1 free ranged attack with a ranged weapon at her highest base attack bonus as part of casting the spell. The attack does not increase the spell's range. And let's see, is there any other? These look the same. These look the same. You don't get the spell combat abilities here. You get, those are the same. You get the spell recall. You get the bonus mage's feats. You get the armor. You get improved spell combat at 8th. Greater at 14th. And greater spell access at 19th. And basically, yeah, so you get the same feats for the most part. You don't get Spell Strike. That makes sense because you're using a bow. Well, you do get Spell Strike, but you don't get the attacks of opportunity, which you don't get with archers anyway. So let's go ahead and build a Magus. So they want intelligence. Boom, boom, boom. You probably want at least a 16. Now you have two ways you could go. Since you have to use one-handed light weapons, you could go weapon finesse. So you get the plus the hit from dexterity, and you get plus a hit, and then you can get the feat later that lets you use dexterity for damage. So let's go ahead and do it that way. Let's go ahead and build problem is you're going to wear armor, so you still need some strength. Well, that's true. If you're wearing armor, ooh, there is a problem with this build. If you're wearing armor, your max dex is going to go way down. So, even though they recommend dex, so I guess you have two ways to go. You can not take huge armor, though at lower level, it's hard to say. Really is sort of hard to say. I think we'll go ahead and take con. This would be more a weapon finesse one. And the other question is, do you put dex so you got the better hit, or do you put it on intelligence so you had the better bonus for armor class in that? I think we'll go ahead and put it on dex, but you could easily also put it on intelligence, because it doesn't matter so much for your attack rolls, because most of your spells are going to be touch attacks, so it's not a huge thing. And then you get arcane, persuasion, athletics, and world knowledge. And book. Okay, giving him arcane strike would be silly since they already have it. Combat casting. You want combat casting. If they're going to throw spells in combat, you want that +4 bonus for your cast defending. So we could do dodge. But instead, we want weapon finesse. And then they could use like a rapier. And then next, and then they get their starting spells. So these are all the 0 level spells they get. So you want touch-based spells. So that's a cone. That's a cone. So corrosive touch. Shield would be good. Shocking grasp would be good. True strike. Vanish would be good. And no real other touch spells. Enlarge person. Or you could take reduce person and use it on the other guy. Well, except that has to be friendly. Reduce person is a friendly only spell. Okay. So that would cover the basic spell list. Confident. You can be pretty much any alignment. There's no alignment restriction. Neutral good will go in this case. We'll call him Magi. Magi. And there you have the base stats. So he's not going to have a plus in melee attack because he doesn't get a plus per level for hit. So his hit plus isn't going to be as good as a fighter, but he does have 2 first level spells that he can throw per day, and that's pretty much it. So as always, if you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and give me a like or a comment. And if you disliked it, leaving me a dislike's fine, but please leave a comment saying why you disliked it. As always, this is Spidey1958, and have fun gaming.